Are you exhausted by the endless pursuit of the next big stock market rocket ship, only to find your portfolio bouncing around while your financial anxiety remains exactly the same? We are constantly bombarded with stories of overnight crypto millionaires and explosive tech startups, making the slow, steady path of traditional wealth building feel like a relic of a bygone era. For young investors looking at a mountain of student debt or the rising cost of living, waiting 30 years to see real wealth can feel entirely unacceptable. You want financial independence, and you want it while you still have the energy and time to actually enjoy it. But what if the secret to accelerating your wealth journey isn't found in chasing risky, high-flying trends, but in a remarkably boring strategy that most people your age completely ignore? This is exactly where Alex found himself at 24, working a standard entry-level job and feeling entirely left behind by the financial success stories flooding his social media feeds. He wanted to build wealth early, but the conventional wisdom handed down to him was deeply uninspiring. The prevailing narrative suggested that investing for cash flow was a strategy strictly reserved for retirees playing golf in Florida, not for ambitious young professionals trying to build an empire from scratch. Alex set out to challenge this narrative, embarking on a journey that ultimately debunked the pervasive myth that this specific type of investing is simply too slow for young people. To understand how he did it, we have to look at the very mechanism he used, which is the dividend. A dividend is simply a portion of a company's profit that is paid directly back to you, the shareholder, usually on a quarterly basis, just for owning the stock. Most young investors dismiss these payouts as pennies, preferring to gamble on companies that promise massive price appreciation but return zero actual cash to their owners. They see a 3% yield and scoff, calculating that a $1,000 investment will only generate $30 a year. On the surface, that math seems to validate the myths, making it look like a grueling, unrewarding crawl toward retirement. But what happens when you look past year one? Alex's initial skepticism was rooted in his own modest income. When you are only taking home a few $1,000s a month, finding the spare capital to invest feels like trying to squeeze water from a stone. He realized that before he could build a portfolio, he had to master his daily cash flow. The challenge wasn't just about cutting out expensive coffees, it was about fundamentally restructuring his relationship with money so that his income served his future, rather than just funding his present lifestyle. He implemented a strict, automated budget, ruthlessly trimming subscription services and negotiating lower fixed costs to carve out an initial $500 a month for his wealth-building project. This was the critical first step. The discipline of a budget frees up the essential capital needed for investing, transforming theoretical plans into actionable reality. With that cash secured, Alex opened a Roth IRA, a specialized retirement account where his money could grow completely tax-free, and prepared to make his first strategic move. Instead of trying to pick the perfect individual company, Alex chose to buy an ETF, or exchange-traded fund. Think of an ETF as a single basket that holds dozens or even hundreds of different stocks, allowing you to own a tiny piece of the entire market with just one purchase. He selected a fund specifically focused on companies with a long history of paying and growing their cash distributions. Clicking that buy button for the first time shifted his identity from a mere consumer to a rightful owner of global businesses. 3 months later, the first milestone arrived. A notification popped up on his phone revealing a deposit of $4.12. It was objectively a tiny amount of money, barely enough to buy a cheap sandwich. Yet, for Alex, it was a profound psychological victory. He had done absolutely no physical labor for those $4. It was pure passive income, generated entirely by the capital he had deployed. The machine was officially turned on, but the real magic required one crucial automated setting that would change everything. He enabled automatic reinvestment. Every single cent of cash flow his portfolio generated was immediately used to buy fractional shares of the very same fund that paid it. This is the engine of compound interest, the process where your money earns returns, and then those returns start earning their own returns. By utilizing dividend reinvestment, Alex wasn't just adding to his pile of money, he was multiplying the number of shares he owned, which in turn would generate an even larger payout in the next quarter. But this mathematical perfection was about to face a brutal real-world test. The path to wealth is rarely a straight line upwards. 2 years into his journey, the broader stock market took a violent downturn. Financial news networks panicked, and Alex watched the total value of his portfolio drop by nearly 20% in a matter of weeks. The temptation to sell everything, to retreat to the safety of a standard savings account, or to abandon his strategy for a trending high-risk asset was overwhelming. Fear is the ultimate test of any financial plan, threatening to derail years of disciplined progress in a single moment of panic. But because he was focused on income rather than just the daily price of his shares, Alex noticed something extraordinary. Even though the market value of his portfolio was down, the actual cash payouts he received were still arriving right on schedule, and in some cases, the companies were even increasing them. He reframed the market crash not as a disaster, but as a rare clearance sale. Because stock prices were lower, his reinvested cash was now buying significantly more shares than before, accelerating his ownership stake at a deep discount. Fast forward 5 years, and the mathematical reality of his consistency became impossible to ignore. The snowball had grown to a staggering size. Those original $4 payouts had morphed into hundreds of dollars every single month. His portfolio was now purchasing entire new shares of stock entirely on its own, without requiring a single extra dime from his paycheck. The compounding machine was working round the clock, proving that what started as a slow trickle had become a powerful, self-sustaining current of wealth. As his wealth expanded, Alex began to refine his approach through careful asset allocation, which simply means dividing your investment portfolio among different asset categories, like stocks, bonds, and real estate, to balance risk and reward. He diversified his holdings, adding different sectors to ensure that a downturn in one specific industry wouldn't derail his entire income stream. This structural maturity protected his growing passive income, ensuring it remained resilient regardless of the broader economic weather. The impact of this strategy soon transcended his brokerage account and began reshaping his daily life. Knowing he had a steadily growing stream of passive income gave Alex a profound sense of security at his job. He no longer operated from a place of financial desperation. When an opportunity for a career pivot arose, one that offered more personal fulfillment but a slightly lower starting salary, he took it without hesitation. His investments had bought him the ultimate luxury, which is the absolute freedom of choice. Yet, the broader financial world still largely misunderstood how he got there. This is how Alex effectively debunked the myth that income-focused investing is too slow for the younger generation. The traditional view looks at a flat yield and assumes linear growth, blinding people to the underlying mechanics of wealth creation. But the reality of reinvestment creates an exponential curve. While his peers were still jumping in and out of volatile trades, constantly resetting their progress and paying heavy taxes on short-term gains, Alex was quietly building a fortress of equity that paid him regardless of whether the market was up or down. Time is the most powerful multiplier in the universe of finance, and young investors possess it in absolute abundance. Every year you wait to start is a year of compounding growth you can never get back. By starting early, you give your capital the massive runway it needs to do the heavy lifting for you. You don't need a massive salary or a windfall inheritance to achieve financial independence. You just need the patience to let the math work and the unyielding discipline to stay the course when others panic. The greatest risk you face isn't market volatility. It is the opportunity cost of doing nothing while waiting for the perfect moment or the perfect stock. Every dollar spent on fleeting luxuries today is a dollar stolen from your future freedom. The paycheck-to-paycheck cycle is a trap designed to keep you working forever, and breaking out of it requires a deliberate, sometimes uncomfortable shift in your daily priorities. When you commit to this path, the long-term consequence is a life fully funded by your own foresight. Imagine reaching your 40s not with dread about retirement, but with a portfolio that seamlessly covers your mortgage, your groceries, and your vacations, all without you having to clock in for a single hour of labor. That is the true destination of the journey Alex started with just $500 a month. It is the profound transformation of earned income into permanent generational wealth. You have the exact same tools at your disposal right now. The market does not care about your background, your current job title, or your past financial mistakes. It only rewards consistent, disciplined action applied over long periods of time. Start today by analyzing your budget, carve out your initial capital, buy your first cash-flowing asset, and turn on that reinvestment switch. Build your own compounding machine and take absolute control of your financial destiny.